Hello, darlings. Welcome, my beautiful waking gods and goddesses. Maria West here, and this is Love, Truth, and Beauty, episode 343, and my fourth installment of my new video series, Conversations with Women. And today I have with me my beautiful, beautiful guest, Kali Satyagraha from South Africa. Kali, welcome. How are you doing, sweetheart?
I am very well, thank you, and delighted to be on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such an honor and a privilege to be talking to you today.
You're so very, very welcome. And I am absolutely blown away by your journey, your life story. And I know that my viewers, the women and men who really support my work, they are going to be completely fascinated. So please, 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 please share with us.
Right. Well, my orientation as someone who holds healing spaces in this world comes from my own journey of extreme polarity. I grew up in a household of extreme polarities where everything was very, very divided and separated. And I also grew up in South Africa, which was known infamously for apartheid, where black and white was also very divided, very separated. And so that really was kind of imprinted in me from a very young age was this very extreme separation, which caused, of course, so much suffering because I was literally divided in every possible way, in my psyche, in my body, in my emotions. And so my journey has been one of bringing the divided parts back home into a unified, harmonious, balanced, pleasurable whole. Whole being holy, whole being healthy, whole being healed. And so that has been my journey. And that's what brought me to Totality Tantra and to my very beloved teacher, Shakti Milan, who I know you've also
my sweetheart. With. Yes. Such a good friend of mine.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, she's no longer with us in her body, but she's certainly with us in spirit. And she's been a big influence in my life, and she was my teacher in BlissDance, which is a tantric movement practice of awakening. And it awakens us to truth, to beauty, to pleasure, to love, to peace through movement, through mindful movement, tantric practices. It brings us home, back home to ourselves. And so my journey, I'm now 60, I finally feel that I have brought all the lost parts of myself back home.
Wonderful.
To this sort of balanced whole. And it's an ongoing journey. It never ends. It's this ever going deepening, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And welcome to the 60s club. It's actually very fun here.
Are you also in your 60s, Maria?
I will be 64 this year. So it's happening, you know.
Fabulous.
Well, and I think it really is the work that we do, because there's a certain aliveness where you don't get to bypass, you don't get to deny certain things, you know, the totality of human experience, you know, the highs and the lows and everything in between and beyond, and not freezing or not cutting off that flow. And I think being in that flow of whatever is happening in the moment or not happening in the moment is the way to go. And I wanted to back up because you were talking about your family and the divide. Was that natural for you? Like, how did you feel about witnessing that, living during that time? I mean, these were explosive times when you and I were coming up.
Absolutely. You know, it's still very alive in me. I still remember those times very clearly. I remember as a little girl growing up and seeing, for example, an old man of color being served after a little boy who was behind him in the queue. So he would be served last, and this little white boy would be served before him. And I remember even as a little girl going, that's not right. That's not right. He has dignity and he's a beautiful human being. And why is he being treated so appallingly? So something in me from a very young age was very aware, even though it was completely normalized in South African society, I knew it was wrong. My body knew it was wrong. And interestingly, later in life, only not even 8 years ago, I discovered that my mother was actually mixed race, that my mother actually had 2 different African lineages in her lineage. And I was so happy to discover this. It made me so proud to be South African, and that it made me realize this is why I'm so passionate about living here. It made me realize that I do belong here, even though I am also European on my father's side, and my mother was mixed European and of African lineage. And before I discovered this big secret, my mother kept it a secret her whole life.
Wow.
I had a mixed race child myself. I met a beautiful Kenyan man, fell pregnant unexpectedly. It was unplanned. And I've got this beautiful 21-year-old mixed race daughter. And my soul, I believe, was calling me home because something in me needed to resolve this huge secret that was kept in the family. And so by having a mixed race daughter and being so proud of her, my mother healed. There was something in my mother that was able to heal, even though she never told us in her lifetime. She didn't tell us about her heritage. I know that my daughter healed my mother of a lot of shame. Because when she was married to my father, if they had discovered she was mixed race, they wouldn't have not even been allowed to be married. They would have gone to jail. They would have had to live in separate towns. We would have had to go to different schools. So there was a real reason why my mother couldn't, share her truth. Yeah.
That is a powerful, powerful healing, because, the mother wound is particularly potent. Because we as women, we conceive them, we carry them in our bodies. We grow these amazing human beings. We birth them, we raise them. It's like, the masculine really doesn't come in until quite a bit later in a child's development. And so this is an important wound. I talk about this a lot. So I'm so happy that you brought that up. And the generational platinum line that goes through it is so critical in not just the awakening process, but the embodiment process of integrating all these different cultures, all these different sort of the psychic DNA imprinting of all this. So you knew as a child, this is so wrong and so brutally inhumane. It's like, I'm not having this. This is not right. You felt it.
I knew it. I knew, it was deeply ingrained in me. Both the shame of my mother and, that the secret, and I have a saying that secrets make you sick. And so you have to take these secrets and get them out of the closet, get the skeletons out the closet, because they really make you sick. And you don't know why until it becomes apparent. You don't know why, but there are all these repressed secrets in the family. And so this was one of the big ones in my family, was my mother's heritage. It's amazing how my soul called me to, my daughter's father. That was a whole amazing journey in and of itself, which I'm writing a book about. And her name is Sienna, which means the color of African soil. Sienna is color on the palette spectrum of paint, and it's African ochre. So that's her name.
Beautiful. What an amazing journey that is, and also your father's lineage too. I found these are shamanistic pathways here. That
my son comes from, so it's spelled Wid, W-I-D-D, and it comes from the ancient Celtic word druss-wid, druss-wid, which means druid. So on my father's side, I come from the druidic lineage, and on my mother's side, the Khoi, which are the first people, the very first people, who were by nature medicine people. They lived close to the land. They understood how nature worked. They understood how the land worked, how the animals worked in relationship to them. And so I have this Khoi medicine lineage and the druidic medicine lineage, and I feel them working in me. And actually today there was a summit where I was speaking about the importance of ancestors, and knowing your roots and knowing the path that you've walked, in order to know the path you meant to walk.
Yes.
You can't know that. You know your roots until you know who you are and who your ancestors are.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So how did you come to Shakti's work? I'm curious. I always love to know how we were drawn to this beautiful sister.
Yes. Well, it was pure serendipity. It really was. It was at the time that my soul was really calling to be healed. I had just had my daughter. She was still very young. And I knew there was this, having her just brought up all this ancestral stuff. And I knew I needed guidance. And so I went on a retreat to a beautiful non-dual, Advaita non-dual teacher called Isaac Shapiro. He's actually South African, but living in Australia. And I went on this retreat completely spontaneously. I knew nothing about it, but I just felt called to go. And my roommate happened to be Shakti Milan. And so it was amazing, because as I walked into the room that we were sharing, I looked at her and I knew that I'd never met anybody like her in my life. I couldn't put my finger on it, but now in retrospect I realized it was the first time I'd met anybody who was embodied. She was embodied. Up until then I'd never met a single person that inhabited their body consciousness. Exactly. So I was mesmerized by her. I was completely enchanted by her, and I just remember I hung on her every word. And we went swimming in a dam on this farm, and she was swimming like naked, like a dolphin, and making all these little dolphin noises, going and swimming. I was like, this woman's just out there. She's so unique and so different. And of course, I then also discovered that Shakti had this very, very unique, beautiful communion with dolphins, and dolphins were actually what activated her awakening. With the dolphins off the coast of Mozambique. And so that was my introduction to Shakti. And it was from there that I became drawn to Tantra. In fact, up until then, I hadn't even really heard of the word Tantra. I had no idea what it was. That just meeting her was enough. I was like,
that's amazing.
I need to follow this woman. I need to sit in her presence and absorb what she had to transmit, because it was very palpable. It was very visceral. It wasn't. She was very intelligent, of course, but it was what she transmitted that was so powerful.
Yes, she was always so real and raw with just everything that was coming up. There were no facades, no
filters, no pretensions. And so again, the first really wild woman that I'd ever met, unconditioned, untamed. She had found her way back to her truth. Not an easy path, and she she would say that it was a very, very fiery path, but that's what made her such an incredible teacher, because she was brave as well, so courageous. And if I could just be, a 10th of what Shakti was, I will be happy that, I've made a contribution in this world.
Yes. So tell us about your journey through totality therapy into BlissDance, and really taking that on, like really receiving that torch, taking it on, developing it, refining it, offering it up now as it's a formal course of study now, an important one.
Yes, it's again, it's a big honor and a big privilege, and it's I'm filled with excitement, as we say in Tantra, excitement and terror at the same time. because it's such a big, I feel like it's such a big responsibility to take Shakti's bliss dance training. So I trained in bliss dance, which, as I say, is this tantric movement practice of awakening. I trained with her 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer ago. And I loved bliss dance. From the minute I started dancing, doing conscious dance, I started to do conscious dance to rehabilitate a broken knee, thinking that that was just going to be a physical thing, just meantime, it totally changed my whole life. Every aspect of myself was turned inside out and upside down. And but I loved dance. From the minute I stepped onto a conscious dance floor and I heard that you could actually do this as a living, I was like, I'm learning, I want to do this. So I trained in be a dancer like Shakti did, and I also found it too limiting for where I was wanting to go like Shakti did. And so she created bliss dance and I followed her into bliss dance. And yeah, and then she didn't, she passed quite soon after I trained with her 6 years ago. So 4 years after I trained.
It's still a bit of a shock, isn't it? I mean,
it is. It's, because she was the most embodied person, it's so difficult to believe that she's not in her body anymore. But of course she is more than ever. In a way, her presence is greater now. It's global. Everybody who knew her still feels her. So in a way, she's not limited by her body anymore. And I feel that's why she transitioned. And so I feel she's guiding me. And from the time I trained with her, I started doing weekly classes. I was the first person to do, not the first, maybe the second person. There was a 5 rhythms class before I started my bliss dance classes in Cape Town. But I started doing a weekly class. And then I started doing workshops, and then I started doing retreats. And so I really developed bliss dance beyond what Shakti had started, because once she passed, I kept the torch alight.
And
kept on, and learned a lot through my own classes and started to develop it and have my own signature, which Shakti always encouraged everyone who trained with her to do. She never wanted mini me's. She never wanted little Shaktis.
That is very, very true.
Yeah, she wanted teachers to go out into the world and be true to themselves. If she was true to herself, then, her transmission was going to be true to yourself.
Yes.
Don't copy anyone. Don't try to replicate anyone. Be you. And so I did that. And so I've developed it now into what I know Shakti would have done had she been around long enough. And that is, I've developed a bliss dance theoretical model so that it has a deep totality tantric foundation for practices and the tools. So I call it the Totality Tantra Tapestry, and it has sutras, which are the main kind of themes that run through bliss dance, and then I've got the threads that are the minor threads together into this beautiful tantric tapestry. And when you immerse yourself into the dance, I call it the satori, because that is a satori is when you are fully alive and embodied in the moment, and it's like so when you're in the dance and you're fully in the dance, I call that the satori of the dance, or the eros of the dance. And a big part of bliss dance is it invites you to really explore, what do you really, really, really want? What is your deepest desire? And can you embody that? And how much bliss can you stand? Shakti always used to ask, what do you want? And how much bliss can you stand? And so bliss dance develops our capacity for knowing who we are and what we really want. Because until we know what we want, we can't live our purpose. We can't live our dharma. On that path.
That's true. To have the audacity to have is, really the aftermath of the audacity to desire, all of that. So are you finding that
our dreams get squashed when we're young? We're told they're silly or crazy, or you'll never make money, or all these silly things.
All that stuff.
So to have the audacity to dream, to have the audacity to desire, and to believe that you're worth it, and that you can manifest that which you most deeply, from your deepest heart's desire.
Yes. Do you notice what are the common themes with the students who undertake this training? Can
That is
you name some of those?
That's such a fantastic question, Maria. Thank you for asking that, because
Absolutely.
there's this amazing theme coming through. Well, there are a couple of themes. First of all, they are all teachers in their own right, and often teachers of many modalities. So, it's incredible how it's attracted these very mature participants. One teacher has been teaching with her husband for 30 years, but she's feeling drawn to do the BlissDance training. So the things that they all have in common is, because they're all highly skilled and have these many modalities, what most of them have said to me is they're looking for a home where they can put their modalities, where there's some sort of coherent, cogent philosophy, theoretical model that is what I call BlissDance open source. Some schools of dance are very closed, and you've got to teach it this way, and it's their way or the highway. Now, like Shakti and Tantra is open source. Tantra says everything's welcome. There's no exclusion zone here. Bring it all. If you're a yoga teacher, if you're a Qigong teacher, if you are doing somatic experience with TRE, bring it. It enriches, the tapestry. So it's very open source. And so I said to them, this is your home, because it's totality Tantra. And BlissDance will give you the opportunity to weave your own tapestry and find your own unique signature, but with this rich toolbox of practice and tools that will augment what you're already doing and increase your mastery. And it will do we're all going to go on a huge personal transformational journey together. So that's the one common thread. And the other one is, quite a number of them, even though they might be embodiment practitioners, as in yoginis, they say they're still very much in the masculine. So they've reached this high level of skill in the masculine, very competent, very discerning. They all self-made and entrepreneurial people. They work for themselves. But they say somehow they're not living the feminine. They know in their heads about it, but they haven't yet found a way to embody from the feminine. So that's the other common thread. Those are the two. The multi-modality looking for a home, and the high skill in the masculine looking for the feminine to balance now this very mature masculine they have.
Wow. These are intense polarities and diversions that often will keep us, men and women, very distracted from, what is, I call it heart, mind, body, soul coordination. They're all out of whack. They're not speaking to one another. They're not speaking the same language, basically.
That's it. They're not congruent. They're not all hanging together. And I always say, when they all sort of hang together, then you align up with your own horizon. And then you are on the path that you're meant to be on. And often I find that it's actually the most fine little attunements, just an attunement here. It's like taking an engine, it's kind of working, but it's not optimized because it hasn't a good service. And maybe the oil is dirty and it needs a good change of oil. And often people who feel like they're really lost and they just feel like they so can't find their path, and then you just do a little attunement here, a little attunement there, and boom, suddenly they're on it, So I love seeing that happen.
Wow.
Because it's not the big adjustments. These are people who've done so much inner work already. This is the fine tuning that sets them on that exponential trajectory. And I saw that happen in Shakti. I saw her from just after she'd been called by the dolphins to do this work. And in 7 years, she became a global teacher. It was the most phenomenal trajectory I'd ever seen anyone take. And I feel like she found the fine attunements, and she built it into BlissDance, and she built it into tantric work. And that's why so many of her students today are, very well-respected teachers around the world.
I was with her when you know, the whole online thing was like happening, and she was working with a woman to get everything online. We met, and she's like, "What the fuck is all this online shit? I don't want to do it." And I just remember thinking, "Girl, it's happening. It's
It's
happening."
happening.
That
We have to go
surrender
with it.
to the technology, you know,
Yeah.
and what you're doing, making it available via Zoom and live. I think these are important things because we need to all be able to connect in ways that we can have access to these beautiful, beautiful teachings.
Yeah,
So
for me, it's a good balance to have both the online and the in-person. I wouldn't like
yeah,
to only do online teaching. And I certainly now with the online, what it brings with the, you know, the ability to be, you know, to be in a global class is just phenomenal. So I like both.
cool.
I like to have a balance of both. But having said that, Shakti was resistant to online teaching. She was pioneering. She was online long before anyone
Yeah,
else thought about doing
yeah.
it.
I
So
started in 2003. So,
uh-huh.
you know, it's gone through many iterations of learning the technology, of growing with the technology, of deleting obsolete technology and rising up to meet the new technology. It's like, oh
And
man.
it's getting faster and faster, but
Yes.
that is, you know, to just sort of pivot back to when we were first talking about youthfulness, I
Mm-hmm.
really do believe that consciousness keeps you young
Yes.
because we know that it never stops. This deepening into truth, this deepening
Yes.
into love,
Yes.
never stops. It's an ongoing process, so we don't get stagnant and stale. And you
I
know,
agree.
I find it very tiring to keep up with technology, whereas young people, it's just that, you know, it's born
Yeah.
in their blood, they know how to do it. But the challenge stretches me and grows me, and it
Yes.
stops me from atrophying.
Yes.
Otherwise I would become old and boring and, you know,
Yeah,
probably
we're summoning life. We're summoning life force, creative energy with with our desires, and also with our inspirations to
Mhm.
share, or these
Yes.
creative ideas. You know, you get a download, and it's like, oh, and that is that life force that you're summoning, and you're attracting it. You're being magnetic, which enhances the feminine, you know, within both men and women. And it's, I think it's beautiful. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that just keeps things alive and keeps us juicy, I think, you know, otherwise it just
Yeah.
atrophies. You don't use it, you lose it. You really do. And I
That's
see
it.
way too many people just becoming kind of zombies in many ways. There's just no, it's dull.
Yeah, it's like the living dead. And I think that's another reason why I love being a tantrika, is because even when it's uncomfortable, we lean into it. You
Yes.
know, we actually go through that discomfort.
Yes.
Like Shakti was uncomfortable with online. It wasn't like her love
Yeah.
language, yet she did it
She did
anyway.
it. She did it anyway. We had a good laugh. We had a good laugh about it, you know. And she
I'll
was
tell you
being
a
so,
wonderful story.
yeah. We were being
Sorry.
so, she was being so supported, you know, because she was asking me, how do you do it? I go, I just, you know, I just show up. I fuck it up all the time, you know. It's like all of a sudden I don't know what's going on. The camera says it's happening, but no, there's no picture. It's like whatever. And then you figure out what works, and they've made it
Exactly.
easy.
Trial and error. But I'll tell you a
Yeah.
wonderful story about doing online work. I was doing an online session with a client of mine, and I was in Cape Town and he was in Johannesburg. And it was at the time of Skype, and Skype then was really bad. You know,
Yeah.
the screen would pixelate
Yeah, it
and, you know,
would.
out, and you'd have to dial back in. Anyway, we were doing eye gazing, and we were doing it for like 20 minutes. The screen would pixelate. We would just keep on. We just stayed very still, dropped into our hearts. Our eyes were just holes for the light to come in. And so there we were doing this very intimate, advanced tantric practice of soul gazing over a screen that was pixelating like mad. Anyway, but we stuck with it, and we just stayed, and we, you know, it was about 20 minutes of silence, just looking, just looking, just looking. And he shape shifted many, many times before my eyes. But by the time we finished at about 25 minutes, I was looking at my own face in the screen. It was
Wow.
looking back at me. And so in that practice, I got the direct transmission that there's only one of us here. That was what I got, was this deep teaching live
beautiful.
over the internet, that there's only one of us here, contrary to popular opinion. Just totality expressing itself in all these different ways, but it's totality. So that was powerful. That shows that
that's beautiful.
Even online, you can have the most profound Satori.
Absolutely. I mean, we are wired in, and we're actually, I think, very wired for this. I know, there's a big controversy about AI and all that kind of stuff, and I get it, but at the same time, I do have a certain appreciation for the technology and for the advancements in a lot of the technologies that are like allowing our work to be more accessible and more easily disseminated, because I know a lot of people don't want to travel, or they don't like it, or, they have a lot of other things going on. And
I just want to save the environment by not, increasing their carbon footprint.
Yes, exactly.
So that, for me, everything is about consciousness. If you're awake and discerning and embodied, it can only work for good. And if you're not awake and not discerning, then it can go in the other direction, which is the argument why the whole of humanity needs to wake up.
Yes.
Because it's just an energy like money, and it can be used for good or it can be used for harm. And the only difference is consciousness. So
I so agree. I so agree. So let's talk about the teaching and the training, and also your offerings that are like coming up. And there's a retreat that's coming up in it's August.
August.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
We're so passionate about sharing this beautiful, if you want to call it technology, with the world, this called BlissDance, which is this totality tantric practice. So we are launching for the first time ever a global training program for practitioners, for Bliss. It's called BlissDance Foundation Training for Personal and Practitioner Mastery. It's 1 year long, and it's online as well as in person. So it's a mix of the two. And we begin on the 10th of May. So there's still time for those last minute people who might be interested to sign up.
Okay, cool.
And then if you love the practice of BlissDance, if it really is your medicine, you can go on and do the 3-year full certification training and become a BlissDance qualified teacher to teach it anywhere in the world. But if you only do year 1, as a practitioner, you can take the tools and practices of BlissDance, and just, as long as you accredit them to BlissDance, you're welcome to use them in your current somatic offerings. So they will be very, very powerful,
beautiful,
woven into any other forms of practice. And but it's primarily a big personal transformation, and then it will also, as I say, enhance your practitioner offerings as they are currently. So that is the training. And then part of that, as we mentioned, is in person. So we have an 8-day immersion in South Africa in the most beautiful retreat center called Body Kaya, where I trained with Shakti in BlissDance at Body Kaya. So it's very special to be going back there. And it's also open to the public. So even if you're not a student doing the training, you are welcome to come to the 8-day BlissDance retreat. And Rianne, my colleague in Shakti Shiva Academy, Rianne, principal of Shakti Shiva Academy, and Shakti's very dear friend, she is also offering for spiritual tourists coming to South Africa, that she will put together package tours for you if you want to go and work with other tantrikas, and kind of do a tour of South Africa, but a spiritual tour because there's very powerful teachers here. This is the land of the first human beings, the first people. It has a powerful energy, Southern Africa, really, really strong energy. So we would love to share other teachers that we work with, that are friends, colleagues, and put together a package. You might want to go to Mozambique and swim with the dolphins.
Oh, how exciting. I
So
love
that's
it.
also an opportunity for anyone listening in right now. And then I also do a monthly online BlissDance drop-in class, and everyone is most welcome to come and join us for the monthly classes. The difference between doing it online and in person is that the online classes are very much a dance with self, because we're not dancing in connection with other people. It's an opportunity to meet yourself very deeply, exactly where you are. And so many people have written to me after a BlissDance class and said they have met themselves in ways that they just had no idea they could, and discovered aspects of self that were so precious in the dance. So it is a powerful medium, even though it's different to when we meet in person, because BlissDance has a focus on connection, on intimacy, on presence, on, just meeting each other lovingly, meeting each other full, meeting each other authentically, no masks, real, showing up in our perfect imperfection. But the self is it's a rare opportunity to really just be with yourself.
Yeah, I've gotten some really amazing feedback from the one that was offered in was it March or April, from a number of my clients and students who had attended, and I said it was beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They were moved, very, very, very moved, and so powerful.
Marcia, one of my I suppose one of my signatures is music. I am fanatical about the best of breed music across a wide variety of genres. I'm very eclectic in my taste, but the thing I insist on is best of breed, the best, not mediocre, not good, but excellent music. And I spend a lot of time trawling through tons of music to find the absolute. And then those are the gems that I string together beautifully for a journey. Beautiful. And so it's the music that is so, so powerful, because it is, for me, the music is the facilitator. The music is the invitation. And so I spend a tremendous amount of time on music. And that's the transmission, is that music. Just very gentle guidance over that music, but the music is what is taking you on the journey.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm looking at our time here, sweetheart. I don't want to keep you for long, because I know you're busy. I know you've had a full day. You're 8 hours ahead. So I know
I'm already in my nightgown.
You go, girl. I love it. I love it so much. Do you have any?
I'm from Africa, so I'm wearing my leopard.
Beautiful. Do you have any final thoughts, final offerings?
Oh gosh, just to say just a huge thank you to you, Maria, for your generosity, for showcasing BlissDance to your beautiful community. It's so beautiful to also meet someone who loves Shakti the way we love her.
Yes.
Well, all across the ocean. And to say that if anyone's also interested in joining the Shakti Shiva Academy's community, they have the Circle of Fire, which is the free membership on Mighty Network. And then there's the Fire Starters, which is a paid membership. It's a very low membership fee, but you get amazing value. You get the free BlissDance class, you get a breathwork class every month, you get an incredible PDF packed full of amazing information. You're part of this community. So if you're interested in joining Shakti Shiva Academy, either the free membership or the Fire Starters, I will send you that link as well.
Okay. Yes.
Because that's a way to also be part of this growing community of people that have the same orientation to life, which is this totality.
Very, very important. It's a beautiful community, kids. I highly recommend. And I know most of the people who are involved. I know most of the teachers who are involved. You have the list. I saw Bernie was there. Bernie Pryor. Bernie and I go back
Do
decades.
you?
Yes.
Oh wow. Oh, wow, because I also did the form training
Okay.
and
Okay. Yeah. So I know
one
the
of my
form as well.
practice. I use Cosmoform all the
Yeah.
time. It's really a
It is
very, very
beautiful practice.
beautiful
So
practice.
we have all these like common threads that are just so really, really wonderful. And this is part of it. You know, this is part of the community. You know, we're all contributing on many different categories of all the different offerings, all the different work, all the different modalities to
Yes.
you know, integrate, to awaken deeper, deeply, more, being able to receive that mode of receiving and being magnetic and
Yeah.
attracting, and also the gifting giving, you know, that
Yes.
masculine way.
And I, it's very tantric again, that it's all these threads weaving together and everyone is welcome. This is what I love about Tantra. It's not exclusionary. It's not hierarchical. It just goes, everybody welcome. Everybody has something special. Everyone has a gift. And the more, and for me, more is more. The more that we are connecting, the more that we collaborate, the more that we co-create. 1 and 1 equals 5. So I'm all for cooperating, collaborating, co-creating, meeting, connecting,
me as well.
all across the world. And so you're a sister after my own heart. You and I also both do women's work, sexual awakening for women. So we have so much in common. And I've never met you before until tonight. And it's just like
I know, it's like we've always known. You know, when Rianne mentioned you, I remember thinking, I think I know her already. And you know, so I always just go with that because, you know, we have that, we have the deep memory. We have the deep memory, that cellular memory, the psychic threads, the collective pain body of what it is to be human in a body on this plane of existence and beyond. So, you know, I take all that into consideration. You know, some people think it's wacky. I don't really care. You know, it's like
either, because that again is the deep feminine, and it's time that we spoke her without being ashamed or making apologies for her. That intuitive, mystical, magical part of being the feminine. It's often poo-pooed, and you know, people are cynical about it. And so for me, the more we declare it and the more we own it, you know, the more other women will do the same, because it's part of our birthright. And so I love you for speaking like that as well.
That's a beautiful way to close right there. So thank you so much, Kelly. Just beautiful, beautiful work. We will have all of Kelly's information down in the show notes below. So that's it for now, my love bugs. And so until next time, so here is to your love, truth, and beauty. Mwah. Ciao, bellas. Ciao, bellas.
Ciao.